Welcome one and all to Let's Play Mega Man X2. I am your host, KenMeisterLP. And yeah, I won't lie, it's been another long while, hasn't it? Oh boy. So I think the conclusion we kind of came to before doing this whole shindig is that me and Ernesto decided that he's going to do the odd numbered entries while I tackle the even numbered entries. And this is going to be quite a doozy, for sure. I mean, this is my favorite SNES Mega Man X game for sure, but it's also been a while since I've last gone through it too, with my only recent playthrough of it only really being through like test recordings and what have you. Uh, just kind of got back into the Mega Man X mood again, and it feels great. Feels great for sure, because sometimes you need a game that's fast paced and real shoot 'em uppy, and just something you can kind of breeze through and just have a blast. And I've been playing so many other RPGs as of late that a game like this is definitely needed as a change of pace. Otherwise, things are just going to get very boring. I mean, it got to a point where I wasn't even really playing video games for a while. And this is the kind of escape I needed, for damn sure. So, I apologize if my commentary isn't amazing. I don't typically do too many Mega Man games on the channel. The ones that I have done are very, very bad, and I'm even having second thoughts during this right now. But I do like Mega Man X more than classic Mega Man after all, so we'll just have to see. I do like this game more than X1 for sure. I'm just gonna go ahead and let you guys know that up front for a variety of reasons that I'll be talking about as we progress further into the playthrough. But for now, let's keep this on a positive note. So, anywho, we are here at the Reploid factory that these Mavericks are hiding out at, and oh boy, what happened to that poor rookie hunter? That kind of sucks. Yes, I'm aware of the green biker memes. I'm totally well aware. I was tempted to just shut up about it and just let them be, but you can't really go through a playthrough without mentioning it. I guess it's kind of a Let's Player's curse at this point. Got our intro stage. Can't really have a Mega Man X game without one for sure. I definitely think every Mega Man game could really use an intro stage. I was kind of disappointed that Mega Man 11 kind of had foregone the opening stage that it was trying to go for Mega Man 7, 8, and Mega Man and Base, and I just don't know why you do that, because Mega Man isn't exactly what I'd call the most accessible franchise, and you definitely need a good warm up to really kick you into gear. But one difference we have right off the bat is the dash ability. This was something you had to earn in X1, and I'm kind of glad that it's going to be stuck with us from here on out, because the stage design and the boss design certainly benefits from it a lot more. The stages in X2 are much more fast-paced than its predecessor, for damn sure, and we'll be getting into why that is the further we go. And it makes the bosses a lot more tolerable too, because a problem I had with X1 is that without the dash boots, a lot of bosses were really difficult to fight without it, like Sting Chameleon, uh, Launch Octopus, Armored Armadillo. X1 was really strict in how you went about tackling the game, and the fact that it was stuck in Chill Penguin stage, the dash boots really kind of left a damper in what kind of path you really needed to take if you wanted the best versatility out of your playthrough. And I think X2 certainly allows a lot more room for that than people give it credit for. This is their leader. His name is Mega Man X. Those who underestimated him are now nothing but scrap. We won't make the same mistake. He is powerful, but he is blind to what is happening around him. Our Mavericks will keep him busy until we are ready. I kind of like how the three Mavericks here each have their own different text speed. I mean, the dialogue isn't anything special, sure, but I like the character where is and where it counts, and you know, it's the thought that counts, basically, is what I'm trying to say. My mind is a complete mess right now. I have not done any Let's Plays in quite a while, so this will be yet again another warm-up Let's Play, but hopefully one that's got a bit more personality than most other Mega Man X2 playthroughs out there. We'll just have to go and see. I mean, at least I'm starting on something that people are a lot more familiar with this time instead of fucking Utopia. I was trying to go for something that was obscure, and that certainly slapped me in the face, so I'm starting over with something that's a little bit more familiar than, you know, most other games that we start with. You know, coming out of a hiatus, so to speak, so... Gotta lie though, I kind of miss how the original game had like Mets on the password screen. I don't know why they got rid of that. And speaking of which, another little thing, the boss screen is nice, but again, like I missed how in X1 you could click on these little panels and like you had like boss information and the map and specifics and all of that shit. I mean, I like games with a lot of personality, you know, and it's a shame that they took that out of X2 and onwards for some reason. I'm not like taking off points off of X2 for this. No, not in any way, shape, or form. But like, I'm not gonna beat around the brush, okay? Like X2, I definitely love more than X1, but even I think there are areas in which it goes backwards from its predecessor for sure. But I think its strengths are a little bit better than the original games for sure. And you kind of have to look past the surface a little bit more than you normally would to really see those merits. So, in this playthrough, I'm not really so much focused on weakness order so much as I am collecting things in an efficient amount of time. So much like X1, we have heart tanks, sub-tanks, and armor upgrades galore. And the upgrade, or rather boss order I'm going to be going in is going to be reflective of the fastest route possible. Meaning that I'm pretty comfortable in fighting most of these Mavericks with just the X-Buster. But regardless of what kind of order you're taking, Wire Sponge is always going to be the best first candidate. He definitely has the easiest pattern to get the hang of. I don't think he's a total pushover though, but like that's kind of a thing with X2's bosses. They have complicated patterns, but they don't hit super hard either. So most of like, you know, the boss fight is going to be spent with you figuring out how they operate, so that way you don't get hit by too much cheese. And I think that's a pretty good balance to make up for the fact that you start off the game with such limited capability. I mean, you're unarmored, you have less life energy than usual. Definitely gotta ease your way in when it comes to like playing a non-linear game, because X3 definitely fails on that note in so many regards. But this stage kind of reminds me of Toadman's for sure, not just for the fact that the boss is kind of easy, but because like the stage itself can actually kind of kick your ass if you don't know what to do. This stage is definitely playing to X2's strengths and stage design, where you really don't want to sit around for most of it, because there are enemies that are going to roam around and kick your ass unless you start moving. And you definitely don't want to linger around for too long in one area. So dashing through, making the jumps count, and making sure the rain doesn't impede you is going to be the key to tackling this stage for sure. Because the rain here actually kind of acts as a detriment in that it does kind of push your jumps back a little bit, and you need to make these dash jumps to count, to make your platforming count. And I think that's another thing X2 does right, is that, like, a problem with X1 stage design is that, like, once you get the dash boots, you can kind of skip past most of X1's, like, shenanigans pretty damn easily, which only really left room for, like, the enemy challenges. And I don't think there was much there to begin with besides the enemy challenges. And it just felt like a game that was a little too easy to cheese for its own sake. I'm not saying that it can be a bad thing, but it definitely feels like something that would provide less replayability. And I think in a game where you can dash off walls and dash jump and all of that, you definitely need to find the right balance. And compared to every other X game I've played, I think X2 finds the best balance out of all of them, where its focus is more on the platforming and speed rather than the enemy challenges. A lot of enemies are very light in this game, I've noticed, and they're more placed in situations where they obstruct you very minimally rather than being large obstacles. And if they are, then they usually come in shorter supply than usual. So Wire Sponge here is basically a boss that shoots a lot of projectiles, but they're very easy to fend off, and that's primarily because as long as you have a mid-charge shot prepped up, you can get rid of them pretty easily. So that's a lot of his main threat taken away from him simply just by just eliminating the threat altogether. You can't shoot him when he's spinning that. That acts as sort of a shield. And yeah, as long as you play the range game against him, you should be fine. So on that note, another thing that I'm going to be utilizing that Ernesto didn't in his X1 playthrough is a glitch called the dash glitch. Essentially, what you want to do is that you want to buffer a dash and a limit at the same time. And this basically makes it to where you can do the amount of damage to a boss that you normally would do with a charge shot, but without having to prep up a charge shot. And this is a very useful technique to know for speedrunning. Very useful indeed. And whenever Wire Sponge turns red, he's more or less going to be prepping up a lightning burst attack. And I find that the best strategy for avoiding that is to stand close to him, so that way the lightning avoids you altogether. Kind of plays to the opposite of the range game strategy I had just mentioned earlier, but sometimes you gotta mix it up a little, you know? But yeah, the dash glitch is something that's only really present in X's 1 through 2. They patched it out in X3, so not really something they stuck around with long term. It seems like even in the mid-90s, they were onto that shit like a hawk. But anywho, for our troubles, we got the strike chain. The strike chain here acts as kind of a utility item in the sense that if you latch it onto walls, you can actually pull X towards it, and it acts as sort of an extra like jump leading up to a wall, so that way you can jump up to walls you normally couldn't, you know, as unarmored X or whatever. And it's a very good tool to have for speedruns. Like, I feel like X2's weapons are less built around crushing enemies entirely and more for speeding around stages, uh, for sure. And I think I can at least apply that to 3 or 4 of them. I will admit the weapons in X2 aren't as versatile as X1's, but I don't think they're downright useless like people claim them to be either. And I'll be doing my best to make sure that I try to get as much love as I can out of the weapons we utilize in X2. Like, we're going to be using the strike chain to actually cheese our way up to an upgrade here in a bit. Not in this stage, but in a stage we'll be tackling in the next video. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Cut that a little too close for comfort. This stage is a lot of fun. This stage is hectic as fuck, and it definitely plays its strengths of X2 very well in that you gotta speed through it if you want to survive. But it's not without its cooldown moments, for sure. I like this stage a lot, and I like a lot of it for what it stands for. I just think it's a little too short for my liking. I mean, we're already at the end, unfortunately. So, and even at the end itself isn't really playing to the strengths I had mentioned before. It kind of serves as sort of like a break of flow, but not in a bad, intrusive kind of way. More like you gotta really stay on your toes kind of way, or you're just gonna get your ass kicked for playing to the same strengths you were doing before. Gotta watch out for these vents here because they will sprout fire, and fire is bad and it'll burn us to a crisp. We wouldn't want that. But yeah, Flame Stag is not a boss I'd normally recommend going after early, but you have just enough utility in your base kit to more or less make it to the other upgrades that are hidden within the stage to not have to worry about backtracking. And plus, Flamestag's weapon is pretty good to have for getting the next upgrade we'll need, for sure. Part of that was standing on the elephant statues. You more or less use them to break open certain paths within the mountain, which I don't think is too necessary, but you want to stand on top of them. Something that a lot of people tend to miss out on in their first playthrough, and upon doing so, you can reach areas you normally wouldn't, as unarmored or naked X or whatever, and they definitely serve as a way of reaching most of this level's secrets. Flamestag here. Here's our boss. A lot of this fight you want to spend on the walls, and that is primarily because Flamestag is a much faster opponent than you. But you don't want to stick on those walls too much. Flamestag is not giving me very good RNG today. He's been a lot more aggressive than usual. But you essentially want to react to a lot of Flamestag's shit. You gotta kind of pay more attention to him than his projectiles for this fight, and if you don't, you'll get your ass kicked like that. Makes him way less of an inviting Maverick than others, but he kind of makes up for this by having lower damage output, which makes sense because he's fast, but doesn't hit as hard. Kind of the opposite of Flame Mammoth, actually, when you think about it. Pretty good evolution of a fire-based robot master slash Maverick thingy. You really don't want to stay on the ground too much for this fight, but you also kind of want to keep within a distance to where you can see what Flamestag here is going to do, because he can shoot projectiles up those walls to keep you from getting too comfortable. This is definitely a boss that, out of everyone in the game, definitely punishes you the most for trying to camp him really hard. You really got to be a lot more reactionary than usual for this boss fight. Which is admittedly something you don't get out of too many Mega Man X bosses, I'll admit. Whew. He's been climbing up the walls more than usual. He doesn't usually do it that much. Don't want to stand on the ground for too long. Oh my god. Oh my god! Jesus Christ. Whew! See, I knew I should have done a practice run before this. Oh my god. Lots of ground to cover, my folks. That's kind of why I'm glad Ernesto did X1 for me. Otherwise, we'd be here at the 30-minute mark. I have a habit of explaining way too much, for sure. But it's necessary if I want to get this playthrough a little bit more personality than your average X2 playthrough, for damn certain. Anywho, with that, we got the Speed Burner. Pretty big, chunky projectile of sorts, but its real use is the secondary charge version of it, which lets you basically blaze through enemies, and it's a lot of fun. I see now why Sigma fell at the hands of Mega Man X. He is quite formidable. I am not sure our Mavericks can hold him long enough. We may have to intervene. Dr. Kane, what happened? A group of Mavericks calling themselves the X-Hunters. Why in parentheses? I don't get that at all. Have just contacted us. Greetings. We have all of Zero's parts. They didn't colorize the text differently for them for some reason. That's not trippy at all, but they kept the text speed. What the heck? We look forward to meeting you, X. X, Zero's control chip is still stored here. I doubt it is possible to resurrect him without it. Dr. Kane, I've got to get Zero's parts back. At any cost. So, not gonna lie, I'm kind of mixed by this turn of events, but I'll talk about that in further detail the further we go in this playthrough. So, without further ado, that's going to be the end of part 1, and I'll see you guys in part 2, where we take on the Gator on Wheels. Wheel Gator. See you guys then.